Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 750th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Queen Julnar returned from her mother to her own realm, her breast was straitened, and she was in ill case. So fared it with her, but as regards King Badr Basim, after Princess Jauharah had ensorcelled him, and had sent him with her handmaid to the thirsty island, saying, Leave him there to die of thirst. And Marcina had seen to him, and put him down in a green islet. He abode days and nights in the semblance of a bird, eating of its fruits, and drinking of its waters, and knowing not whither to go or how to fly, till one day there came a certain fowler to the island, to catch somewhat wherewithal to get his living. He spied King Badr Basim in his form as a white-robed bird, with red bill and legs, captivating the sight and bewildering the thought, and looking thereat said in himself, Verily, yonder is a beautiful bird. Never saw I its like in fairness or form. So he cast his net over Badir, and taking him carried him to the town, mentally resolved to sell him for a high price. On his way, one of the townsfolk accosted him, and saying, For how much this fowl, O fowler? Quoth the fowler, What wilt thou do with him, and thou buy him? Answered the other, I will cut his throat and eat him. Whereupon said the birder, Who could have the heart to kill this bird and eat him? Verily, I mean to present him to our king, who will give me more than thou wouldest give me, and will not kill him, but will divert himself by gazing upon his beauty and grace. For in all my life, since I have been a fowler, I never saw his like among land game or waterfowl. The utmost thou wouldst give me for him, however much thou covet him, would be a dirham, and by Allah Almighty, I will not sell him. Then he carried the bird up to the king's palace, and when the king saw it, its beauty and grace pleased him, and the red color of its beaks and legs. So he sent an eunuch to buy it, who accosted the fowler, and said to him, Wilt thou sell this bird? Answered he, Nay, 'tis a gift from me to the king. So the eunuch carried the bird to the king, and told him what the man had said, and he took it, and gave the fowler 10 dinars, whereupon he kissed the ground, and fared forth. Then the eunuch carried the bird to the palace, and placing him in a fine cage, hung him up after setting meat and drink by him. When the king came down from the divan, he said to the eunuch, Where is the bird? Bring it to me, that I may look upon it, for by Allah 'tis beautiful. So the eunuch brought the cage, and set it between the hands of the king, who looked, and seeing the food and touch, said, By Allah, I wist not what it will eat, that I may nourish it. Then he called for food, and they laid the tables, and the king ate. Now, when the bird saw the flesh and meats and fruits and sweetmeats, he ate of all of it that was upon the trays before the king. Whereat the sovereign and all the bystanders marveled. And the king said to the attendants and eunuchs and the Mamelukes, In all my life I never saw a bird eat as doth this bird. Then he sent a eunuch to fetch his wife, that she might enjoy looking upon the bird. And when he went in to summon her, and said, O my lady, the king desireth thy presence, that thou mayest divert thyself with the sight of a bird he hath bought. When we set on the food, it flew down from its cage, and perched on the table, and ate of all that was thereon. So arise, O my lady, and solace thee with the sight, for it is a goodly of aspect, and is a wonder of the age. Hearing these words, she came in haste, but when she noted the bird, she veiled her face and turned to fare away. The king rose up, and looking at her, asked, Why dost thou veil thy face, when there is none present save the women and the eunuchs who wait on thee and thy husband? Answered she, O king, this bird is no bird, but a man like thyself. He rejoined, Thou liest, this is too much of a jest. How should he be other than a bird? And she said, O king, by Allah, I do not jest with thee, nor do I tell thee aught but the truth. For verily, this bird is King Badr Basim, son of King Shahriman, lord of the land of the Persians, and his mother is Julnar the Sea-Born. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 751st night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the king's wife said to the king, Verily, this is no bird, but a man like thyself. He is King Badr Basim, son of King Shahriman, and his mother is Julnar the Sea-Born. Quoth the king, And how came he in this shape? And quoth she, Princess Jauharah, daughter of King Al-Samadal, hath enchanted him, and told him all that had passed with King Badr Basim from first to last. The king marveled exceedingly at his wife's words, and conjured her on his life to free Badir from his enchantment, for she was the noblest enchantress of her age, and not leave him in torment, saying, May Almighty Allah cut off Jauharah's hand, for a foul witch as she is. I lose her faith, and I grate her craft and perfidy. Said the queen, Do thou say to him, O Badir Basim, enter yonder closet. So the king bade him enter the closet, and he went in obediently. Then the queen veiled her face, and taking in her hand a cup of water, entered the closet, where she pronounced over the water certain incomprehensible words, ending with, By the virtue of these mighty names and holy verses, and by the majesty of Allah Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, the quickener of the dead, and appointer of the means of daily bread, and the terms determined, quit this thy form wherein thou art, and return to the shape in which the Lord created thee. Hardly had she made an end of her words, when the bird trembled once, and became a man. And the king saw before him a handsome youth, than whom on earth's face was none goodlier. But when King Badr Basim found himself thus restored to his own form, he cried, There is no God but the God, and Mohammed is the apostle of God. Glory be to the creator of all creators, and provider of their provisions, and ordainer of their life terms preordained. Then he kissed the king's hand, and wished him long life. And the king kissed his head, and said to him, O Badir Basim, tell me thy history from commencement to conclusion. So he told him his whole tale, concealing naught. And the king marveled thereat, and said to him, O Badir Basim, Allah hath saved thee from the spell. But what hath thy judgment decided, and what thinkest thou to do? Replied he, O king of the age, I desire of thy bounty that thou equip me a ship with a company of thy servants, and all that is needful, for 'tis long since I have been absent, and I dread lest the kingdom depart from me. And I misdoubt me my mother is dead of grief of loss, for this doubt is the stronger for that she knoweth not what is come of me, nor whether I am alive or dead. Wherefore I beseech thee, O king, to crown thy favors to me by granting me what I seek. The king, after beholding the beauty and grace of Badir Basim, and listening to his sweet speech, said, I hear and I obey. So he fitted him out with a ship, to which he transported all that was needful, and which he manned with the company of his servants. And Badir Basim set sail in it, after having taken leave of the king. They sailed over the sea 10 successive days with a favoring wind, but on the 11th day the ocean became troubled, an exceeding trouble. The ship rose and fell, and the sailors were powerless to govern her. So they drifted at the mercy of the waves, till their craft neared a rock in mid-sea, which fell upon her, and broke her up, and all on board were drowned, save King Badr Basim, who got astride one of the planks of the vessels, after having been nigh upon destruction. The plank ceased not to be borne by the set of the sea, whilst he knew not whither he went, and had no means of directing its motion, as the wind and waves wrought for 3 whole days. But on the 4th, the plank grounded with him on the seashore, where he sighted a white city, as it were a dove, passing white, builded with a tongue of land that jutted out into the deep, and it was goodly of ordinance, with high towers and lofty walls, against which the waves beat. When Badir Basim saw this, he rejoiced with exceeding joy, for he was well nigh dead of hunger and thirst, and dismounting from the plank, would have gone up to the beach to the city, but there came down to him mules and asses and horses, in number as the sea sands, and fell to striking at him, and staying him from landing. So he swam round to the back of the city, where he waded to the shore, and entering the place found none therein, and marvelled at this, saying, Would I know to whom doth this city belong, wherein is no lord, nor any liege, and whence came these mules and asses and horses that hindered me from landing? And he mused over this case. Then he walked on at hazard till he espied an old man, a grocer. So he saluted him, and the other returned his salam. And seeing him to be a handsome young man, said to him, O youth, whence comest thou, and what brought thee to the city? Badir told him his story, at which the old man marveled and said, "O my son, didst thou see any on thy way?" He replied, "Indeed, O my father, I wondered in good sooth to sight a city void of folk." Quoth the sheikh, "O my son, come up into the shop, lest thou perish." So Badr Basim went up into the shop and sat down, whereupon the old man set before him somewhat of food, saying, "O my son, enter the inner shop, and glory be to him who hath preserved thee from yonder Satanas." King Badr Basim was sore affrighted at the grocer's words, but he ate his fill and washed his hands, then glanced at his host and said to him, "O my lord, what is the meaning of these words? Verily thou hast made me fearful of this city and its folk." Replied the old man, "Know, O my son, that this is the city of the magicians, and its queen is as she were a she-Satan, a sorceress and a mighty enchantress, passing crafty and perfidious exceedingly. All thou sawest of horses and mules and asses were once sons of Adam like thee and me. They were also strangers, for whoever entered this city being a young man like thyself, this miscreant witch taketh them and hometh them for 40 days, after which she enchanted him, and he became a mule or a horse or an ass of those animals thou sawest on the seashore." And Jauharah perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 752nd night, she pursued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the old grocer related to King Badr Basim the history of the enchantress, ending with, 'All these people hath she spelled, and it was their intent to land they feared lest thou be transmewed like themselves. So they counselled thee by signs and said, Land not of their solicitude for thee, fearing that happily she should do with thee like she had done with them. She possessed herself of this city, and seized it from its citizens by sorcery, and her name is Queen Lab, which being interpreted meaneth in Arabic, Almanac of the Sun.' When Badr Basim heard what the old man said, he was affrighted with sore affright, and trembled like reed in wind, saying in himself, Hardly do I feel me free from the affliction wherein I was by reason of sorcery, when destiny casteth me into yet sorrier cases. And he fell a musing over his condition, and that which had betided him. When the sheikh looked at him and saw the violence of his terror, he said, O my son, come sit at the threshold of the shop, and look upon yonder creatures, and upon their dress and complexion, and that wherein they are by reason of gramarye, and dread not. For the queen and all in the city love and tender me, and will not vex my heart or trouble my mind. So King Badr Basim came out, and sat at the shop door, looking out upon the folk. And there passed by him a world of creatures without number. But when the people saw him, they accosted the grocer, and said to him, O elder, is this thy captive and thy prey gotten in these days? The old man replied, He is my brother's son. I heard that his father was dead, so I sent for him, and brought him here, that I might quench with him the fire of his homesickness. Quoth they, Verily he is a comely youth, but we fear from him for Queen Lab, lest she turn on thee with treachery, and take him from thee, for she loveth handsome young men. Quoth the sheikh, The queen will not gainsay my commandment, for she loveth and tendereth me, and when she shall know that he is my brother's son, she will not molest him, or afflict me in him, neither trouble my heart on his account. Then King Badr Basim abode some months with the grocer, eating and drinking, and the old man loved him with exceeding love. One day, as he sat in the shop, according to his custom, behold, there came up 1,000 eunuchs with drawn swords, and clad in various kinds of raiment, and girt with jewelled girdles. All rode Arabian steeds, and bore in baldric Indian blades. They saluted the grocer as they passed his shop, and were followed by 1,000 damsels like moons, clad in various raiments of silks and satins, fringed with gold and embroidered with jewels of sorts, and spears were slung to their shoulders. In their midst rolled a damsel mounted on a rabbite mare, saddled with a saddle of gold set with various kinds of jewels and hyacinths, and they reached in a body the sheikh's shop. The damsel saluted him and passed on till lo and behold, up came Queen Lab in great state, and seeing King Badr Basim sitting in the shop as he were the moon at its full, was amazed at his beauty and loveliness, and became passionately enamored of him, and distraught with desire of him. So she alighted, and sitting down by King Badr Basim, said to the old man, "Whence hast this thou handsome one?" And the sheikh replied, "He is my brother's son, and is lately come to me." Quoth Lab, "Let him be with me this night, that I may talk with him." And quoth the old man, "Wilt thou take him from me, and not enchant him?" Said she, "Yes." And said he, "Swear to me." So she sware to him that she would not do him any hurt or ensorcel him, and bidding bring him a fine horse, saddled and bridled with a golden bridle, and decked with trappings of all gold, set with jewels, gave the old man 1,000 dinars, saying, "Use this." Then she took Badr Basim, and carried him off as he were the full moon on its 14th night, whilst all the folk, seeing his beauty, were grieved for him, and said, "By Allah, verily this youth deserveth not to be bewitched by yonder sorceress, the accursed." Now King Badr Basim heard all they said, but was silent, committing his case to Allah Almighty, till they came to. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now when it was the 753rd night, she resumed, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that King Badr Basim ceased not faring with Queen Lab and her suite till they came to her palace gate, where the eunuchs and the emirs and the lords of the realm took foot, and she bade the chamberlains dismiss her officers and grandees, who kissed ground and went away, while she entered the palace with Badr Basim and her eunuchs and women. Here he found a place who like he had never seen at all, for it was builded of gold, and in the midst was a great basin, brimful of water, midmost a vast flower garden. He looked at the garden, and saw it abounding in birds of various kinds and colours, warbling in all manners of tongues and voices, pleasurable and plaintive. And everywhere he beheld great state and dominion, and said, "Glory be to God, who of his bounty and long-suffering provideth those who serve other than himself." The queen sat down at a lattice window overlooking the garden on a couch of ivory, whereon was a high bed, and King Badr Basim seated himself by her. She kissed him, and pressed him to her breast, bade her women bring a tray of food. So they brought a tray of red gold, inlaid with pearls and jewels, and spread with all manner of viands, and he and she ate till they were satisfied, and washed their hands. After which the waiting women sat on flagons of gold and silver and glass, together with all kinds of flowers and dishes of dried fruit. Then the queen summoned the singing women, and there came 10 maidens, as they were moons, hending all manner of musical instruments. Queen Lab crowned a cup, and drinking it off, filled another, and passed it to King Badr Basim, who took and drank, and they ceased not to drink till they had had their sufficiency. Then she bade the damsels sing, and they sang all manner modes, till it seemed to Badr Basim as if the palace danced with him for joy. His sense was ecstatized, and his breast broadened, and he forgot his strangerhood, and said to himself, "Verily, this queen is young and beautiful, and I will never leave her, for her kingdom is vaster than my kingdom, and she is fairer than Princess Jauharah." So he ceased not to drink with her till eventide came, when they lighted the lamps, and waxen the candles, and diffused censer perfumes, nor did they leave drinking till they were both drunken, and the singing women sang the while. The Queen Lab, being in liquor, rose from her seat, and lay down on a bed, and dismissing her women, called to Badr Basim to come and sleep by her side. So he lay with her in all delight of life, till the morning. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 754th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the queen awoke, she repaired to the hammam bath in the palace, King Badr Basim being with her, and they bathed and were purified, after which she clad him in the finest of raiment, and called for the service of wine. So the waiting women brought the drinking gear, and they drank. Presently the queen arose, and taking Badr Basim by the hand, sat down with him on chairs, and bade bring food, whereof they ate and washed their hands. Then the damsels fetched the drinking gear, and the fruits, and the flowers, and the confections, and they ceased not to eat and drink, whilst the singing girls sang various airs till the evening. They gave not over eating and drinking and merrymaking for the space of 40 days. When the queen said to him, O Badr Basim, say me whether is the more pleasant this place, or the shop of thine uncle the grocer? He replied, By Allah, O queen, this is pleasanter, for my uncle is but a beggarly man who vendeth pot herbs. She laughed at his words, and the twain lay together in the pleasantness of case till the morning, when King Badr Basim awoke from sleep, and found not Queen Lab by his side. So he said, Would heaven I knew where she had gone. And indeed he was troubled at her absence, and perplexed about the case, for she stayed away from him a great while, and did not return. So he donned his dress, and went seeking her, but not finding her, he said to himself, Haply she is gone to the flower garden. Thereupon he went out into the garden, and came to a running rill, beside which he saw a white she-bird, and on the stream bank a tree full of birds of various colors. And he stood and watched the birds without their seeing him. And behold, a blackbird flew down upon the white she-bird, and fell to billing her pigeon fashion. Then he leapt on her, and trod her 3 consecutive times, after which the bird changed and became a woman. Badir looked at her, and lo, it was Queen Lab. So he knew that the blackbird was a man transmuted, and that she was enamored of him, and had transformed herself into a bird, that he might enjoy her. Wherefore jealousy got hold upon him, and he was wroth with the queen because of the black bird. Then he returned to his place, and lay down on the carpet bed. After an hour or so she came back to him, and fell to kissing him and jesting with him. But being sore incensed against her, he answered her not a word. She saw what was to do with him, and was assured that he had witnessed what befell her when she was a white bird, and was trodden by the blackbird. Yet she discovered not to him, but concealed what aileth her. When he had done her need, he said to her, O queen, I would have thee give me leave to go to my uncle's shop, for I long after him, and have not seen him in these 40 days. She replied, Go to him, but tarry not from me, for I cannot brook to be parted from thee, nor can I endure without thee an hour. He said, I hear and I obey, and mounting rose to the shop of the sheikh the grocer, who welcomed him, and rose to him, and embracing him said to him, How hast thou fared with yonder idolatress? He replied, I was well in health and happiness till last night, and told him what had passed in the garden with the black bird. Now when the old man heard his words, he said, Beware of her, for know that the birds upon the trees were all young men and strangers, whom she loved and enchanted and turned into birds. That blackbird thou sawest was one of her Mamelukes, whom she loved with exceeding love, till he cast his eyes upon one of her women, wherefore she changed him into a black bird. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale, till it be morrow.